Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How's everybody doing? I'm happy to be here. When I say here, of course, in this room, but I'm also happy to be here in Los Angeles. I'm from the East Coast. And right now it's very cold in the East Coast. It's a little nippy here too. But this is a beautiful place to live in. A lot of beautiful people, which is how I met Pam and Aubrey. I met them in my church. I'm also grateful to be here because if the statistics are correct, I shouldn't be. My story begins, I'm from a little island in the Bahamas called Nassau. Anybody been to Nassau? Nassau, yeah. And for tourists, it's a paradise, but it's technically a third world country. And it wasn't really a paradise for me. I grew up in an orphanage there. My mother was a Jamaican immigrant who had migrated to the island, trying to get her life together, in a sense. She met a gospel singer at church that was, he was trying to get a little more than just a phone number, and they had a beautiful baby boy. And they, but my mother was struggling, the relationship didn't work out, and I ended up in the Children's Emergency Hospital. So my mother had left to come to America, and she left me with a friend, and the home that she left me in wasn't a good place to be in. And the child welfare agency of the island took me out the home and put me in the Children's Emergency Hospital. But while I was there was a social worker, retired nurse, who noticed that I wasn't getting any visitors and was always by myself. And she had originally, when she started working there, was thinking of adopting a little girl for her girl that she had adopted when she was a nurse in Canada. And so I started living with them around 5 years old. And like most kids who come from hard backgrounds, you kind of test the love. And I always say I tried to give her heaven, well, she tried to give me heaven, and I gave her hell. But she really endured. But the rest of the family was just like either he goes or we go. So around the age of 14, I did something that broke the camel's back, and I just didn't want to be around the animosity of everybody else. And though my mother wanted me to stay, I ended up going back to another orphanage called the Rampley Home for Children. And while I was there, all the boys in my room, we got in trouble. And I was asked, we were told we had to go. Some of the boys were adopted, but I ended up at a reform school. And at the reform school, a coincidence happened. And it's a key word for me when I hear coincidences because, I'll explain in a second. There was a doctor that was there that was the same doctor that my mother would take me to. And he remembered the story, and what I found out was he always wanted me to reunite with my biological mother. So while I was there, he didn't want me to stay on the same track because according to statistics, same as in the West Indies, same as here in America, kids who are homeless or grow up in foster care end up in the penal institution or dead. So many of my friends didn't make it. And so that's why I say I'm grateful to be here. But we sent a letter to my mother through the American Embassy, and we found her, said, hey, your son is going through these things, and if you want him, we'll send him. So I was able to get on a plane in 1991 and come here to America at 14 years old to reunite with my biological mother. But that was yesterday. Clap it up. That's good. That's good. But when I got here, it was, my mother didn't have a lot of skills, and neither did I, to figure out how to mend the relationship, and talk to each other. So I was walking around with animosity. She was walking around with whatever feelings. Any moms here? Any mothers here?
No.
Yeah. So y'all know that divide and us both trying to figure it out. And then I was unused to calling someone, I was used to calling somebody else mommy. So I called her by her first name. Well, she told me to call her by that name. So it just didn't feel right, you know, because when you grow up with somebody, when you have the mumps, the measles, the flu, and somebody's there for you through those experiences, you connect, you know, and so blood don't always make you family. You could have people who are your family and you don't feel that connection, and it wasn't there. So just the tension was there, and it bubbled up. And about 16 years old, I was on the streets of Brooklyn. And you know, they say the devil find works for idle hands. And I found myself, let's say, in some entrepreneurial endeavors with, you know, and but you know, there was always somebody that was there. So while I was homeless, I met a woman by the name of Elaine Robeson. She was a playwright, lived in the community. She was a stay-at-home mom, and she would go, and for her kids, she would go to she was involved in the PTA. While she was involved in the PTA, she decided to use her skills and started writing plays for the kids in the community, and they used the school where her kids were to bring the kids together. So it was about 40 of us would meet there every day during the weekday after school and write plays. And so I found that I had a gift that I didn't know I had. And so I started writing plays and winning awards, and it was really great connecting with her. And I was supposed to stay at her house for a night. 5 years later, I was still there. So, but that's what happens for a lot of kids who are homeless. Sometimes you couch surf and people don't know you're homeless, right? Because I could stay at the house of one of the kids in the play, right? And you know, it's been a journey. At the time, I was doing my entrepreneurial things from 8 o'clock at night to 8 o'clock in the morning. Then I would go to school, from 8 o'clock at night to 8 o'clock in the morning. Then I would go to school at 8 o'clock and then get out at 3. And then I would go to rehearsal from 4 to 6, take a nap, and then do it again. But, you know, I didn't think of it as a thing. It was just life. You know, it was just like, there's a book by Terry Williams that calls Black Pain. It only looked like we're not hurting, right? Because you're functional, you know? And so I ended up falling asleep in school. And then one day, another coincidence happened. There was a guidance counselor who was at this performing arts school that I ended up at, that was also my guidance counselor at another school that I got kicked out of. And when I walked into her office, it was just like, what? You know? So I said, wow, what a coincidence. So I ended up sitting down with her for a while, and she said, what do you want to do? And I said, I just want to do arts. And I'm in this theater group. And she said, well, you know what? I know of a high school that's a musical theater high school in Manhattan. I'll introduce you to the principal. The school had just got started, so I ended up going to the school. The school was revolutionary at the time. This is 1994. The curriculum was all about writing a play. So the whole year was about a final production that would happen in May. And during that production, all of the things that you learned throughout the year came together. And each class, so instead of going to math, we did economics, but for economics, we studied how the business of playwriting, right? For American history, we did playwriting, so we had to go to Ellis Island and places out in the world to learn hands-on. But little do we know we were really learning the subject matter for our final exams. And so the principal was really revolutionary in realizing that not every kid learns the exact same way. So she always used to say, teachers want the children to learn how they teach, when it should be vice versa. Teachers should teach the way kids learn, and that was her philosophy. But, so at the school, I ended up meeting a guy by the name of Scott Rosenberg. Scott Rosenberg taught a class on filmmaking. So while I was in the class, it was really to just get some extra credit. But it was a life-changing experience. We wrote a play about racism. Excuse me, we wrote a commercial. It's called a public service announcement, a PSA about racism. And Scott was able to get people from various walks of life, everybody from Spike Lee to Jonathan Demme, to come in and teach kids, because his philosophy, similar to the principal, was that why don't we get kids to go out into the real world and find their purpose by just seeking it, find out the thing that you want to do, and just go to those people. So he brought in, at every phase of us creating, writing the play, directing it, getting the cast, editing it, he brought in the real people who are working professionals to come in and teach that thing. So there was one time he was teaching something called a montage sequence. Anybody know a montage sequence? So in filmmaking, a montage sequence is a long period of time condensed into a short period of time. And he used a Biggie Smalls. Biggie Smalls is a performing artist. Y'all, I don't want to assume or anything, but he's a performing artist. But on his debut album, he had a song called, well, it was a montage sequence where it tracked where he was a little kid when he was born all the way until he was an established artist coming out into the music industry. And that clicked for me, and I said I would come to school every day if they taught that way, if they used things that I know of to teach. And so he asked me, the teacher asked me, said, well, what would that look like? So he told me to just keep an idea book in my back pocket and just keep writing your ideas down, because you're going to have these visions and just keep writing them down. So I said, okay. But anyway, fast forward ahead, when I graduated high school, that guy ended up, what I found out, he wasn't just a teacher, he was a philanthropist. Millionaire guy that just wanted to come in and do something, not just give money, but give of his time. And he and I formed a relationship, and he said, yo, I would love to fund your project. So he funded the project, and then a lot of other domino effects started to happen from there. I met a guy by the name of Russell Simmons. He was just starting a foundation. He wanted to do something connected with music, teaching kids using the arts, and he liked the program. And so so funny, when I was a kid in the Bahamas, I always saw Russell Simmons as this kind of father figure. And it was just so amazing to be in that moment. Fast forward ahead, Russell Simmons had developed a relationship with Bruce Willis, and I used to tell Russell I would love to do an album, but we don't have a studio. He ended up telling Bruce Willis had a $100,000 studio in his house that he just wanted to give to an organization. They ended up coming to the program, bringing the paparazzi with them. So I'm sitting between Russell Simmons and Bruce Willis. I'm talking about my program, and the lights is flashing, and I'm thinking back to just the process to get there, you know. And they ended up, Bruce Willis and Queen Latifah ended up collaborating and creating a movie about my story and how I started this program to help the kids. And even, give it up, yeah. God is good, God is good. But I mean, I never intended it, I didn't start it for that, I just wanted to give, I wanted to give back. Music was always a healing place for me, the arts was a place that I got to deal with some of the things that I was dealing with. But when the film came out, and I was able to travel all around the world, and as I traveled around the world, we would do a talk back with the audience. We would show the film, I would come out after the film, and we would have a conversation, and people would talk about themes they saw in the film. But one I want to highlight today is the culminating part of the film was when I sat down with my biological mother to ask her why she leave. And it was intense. But the reason why I ended up sitting down with her, I got to tell you all this part. The reason why I ended up sitting down with her was because I was having ulcers, and I went to different doctors, and the doctors said that we couldn't find anything really wrong. They gave me different medications, and nothing was healing it. I ended up going to an alternative medicine doctor. She said, who are you holding a grudge against? And I guess I never thought to correlate the two together, so she said, you know, you have to deal with what's going on with your mom. In addition, I was engaged to be married at the time, and I was having challenges in that relationship. And our counselor said that I should go and also heal this relationship with my mother. The kids in the program, the album that we created in the film, was all about them going and healing whatever relationship they had. So I was just like, okay, all roads lead to this conversation. Sat down with her, and I was determined to heal that relationship. And most of the time when people are arguing, it's because they're so focused on their own, what they want from the other person, that they're not really listening. And so I always just wanted my mother to just said that I apologize. And I never really saw it from her point of view, you know. It took me a long time to get there. I was 27 when I had that conversation. It took me that long to really heal up, because I was suffering. A lot of times, forgiveness is not about the other person, right? It's really about you. Amen. Amen. And so I got to sit down with her and have that conversation. And for the first time, actually, when I met my mother at 14, you remember Bruh Man? Anybody? You ever watch Martin? From the fifth floor? From the fifth floor? I'm sorry, fifth floor. That's what we did when we see each other. It's like, yo, my mom is standing there, I'm standing right here, and we was just like, so it's funny, but it's sad at the same time too. It's just like both of us didn't know. But anyway, in that moment was the first time we hugged. I hugged my mother for the first time at 27 years old, and in that moment, I committed to helping other people along that journey. So when Pam and Aubrey asked me to come here and just share, I always love this opportunity to share. It might mean something for everybody in the audience in a different way, you know. Today, I'm a relationship coach. That's what I do for a living. But in doing, I never dreamt of actually doing this work. But sometimes you fall into your purpose, you know. And I think that's when I really understood God, because you know, sometimes he puts you through a process to give you a purpose. And a lot of times when I was asking why me, it was like all by design. Unfortunately, we didn't have a conversation to say, hey, Chris, this is what I'm going to do for you. I want you to be a relationship coach. I want you to help me. But I'm grateful for the process. Sometimes I used to think, you know, if I could do it all over, would I do it differently, you know? And, but I wouldn't, you know? It made me the man I am. I would say to anybody here, you know, think of somebody that might be in your family. There may be a conversation that, you know, that needs to be had. Maybe, you know, they say instead of seek first to understand, then to be understood. You know, my mom was a teenager when she started having children for a married man, meaning that her mother didn't, her and her mother didn't have a good relationship. And so she goes to try to get her life together and ends up having another child. Yes. And then the father is not there to help her. Yes. Poor in a country where she doesn't have any friends, and so, you know, she's trying to figure it out, made a decision to leave her kid with a friend, thinking that, all right, I got to get to America to make a better way, and then I'll send for him, which happens to a lot of kids in Haiti, Jamaica, Europe. A lot of this happened for years before I even thought it was just me going through this by myself. But once I was able to heal, I could see what her journey was, you know. And so, if I could leave you guys with any message, it's really that, you know. When we pass in this life, it was really about our relationships, right? It's about relationships that we have, and sometimes we hold on to things that we don't got to hold on to, hurting ourselves, hurting the relationships. So here's the healing. Love to you. Thank you. Is that cool?
Yeah, thank you, yes.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
My man. Appreciate you, man. Cool. Amen. I'm glad you were pleased, brother. Oh, wow. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Wow.
You gotta go.
You got to leave right away?
No, I'm here. I'm here. Okay. Oh, wow.
Brother Cosby, what's the name of the film that we
Oh, the hip hop. Oh, it's called the Hip Hop Project. Hip Hop Project. You could go Netflix or Amazon. It's available now, and just check it out. Just Google the Hip Hop Project. It'll all come up. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.